Welcome back to the Cordless Vacuum Guide, and in this video, we'll compare two do-it-all robot vacuums, the Ecovacs T30S and the Roborock Revo. These products are two of the most versatile alternatives capable of mopping, vacuuming, emptying the dustbin, and washing the pads. We'll examine which of these premium robot vacuums is the better option, given their high price tag. I've spent countless hours testing these robots to find out their strengths and weaknesses to get the data needed for this video, and let's get right into it. The first thing you'll notice with the Ecovacs base station is how massive it is compared to the Revo base station. That's because the T30S I have is the combo version that comes with a handheld vacuum for cleaning the areas the robot cannot reach. This addition means Ecovacs needed to have an additional slot on its base station for storing the handheld unit and its tools, hence the added bulk, which is its biggest downside. Carrying it to the second floor will be difficult unless you can bench press like a weightlifter. However, the added bulk was a necessity for the added functionality. The T30S combo base station can charge the robot and handheld vacuum and empty their dustbins, plus there's storage for the handheld tools. If you don't want the added bulk and weight of the T30S, then you can opt for the base version with a slimmer base station. Other than added storage for the handheld unit, the T30S and Revo base stations have a similar design. Two water containers on top, bag in the middle, and a scrubbing plate for washing the pads at the base. Another difference is that the first generation Revo series doesn't have hot water pad washing, while the T30S does. If you want this feature, you'll need to opt for the second generation Revo, which has it, but it will cost more. The Revo has larger water tanks rated at 5 liters each. The T30S clean water tank can hold up to 4 liters, while the dirty water tank has a 3.5 liter capacity. However, the T30S has a larger bag capacity of 3 liters, or 0.3 more than the Revo capacity at 2.7 liters. Another similarity between these robots is both use a round frame, which is what most manufacturers use since it's the most efficient at navigating around tight spaces. Ecovacs briefly switched to a square-shaped robot when it released the X2 Omni, but switched back to the round frame with this model. One issue with a square-shaped robot is that it is more likely to get wedged in tight spots, which affects cleaning efficiency, so most brands avoid using it. The brush and pad placements are similar. One difference is that the T30S uses a combo brush, while the Revo uses an all-rubber brush, which will impact how it cleans. And I'll talk more about this later in this video. Both have two spinning discs behind the primary brush roll for mopping floors. They also have a pad lift feature, which on paper helps them avoid carpets or rugs. One feature the T30S has over the base Revo model is the extendable side brush they call True Edge Adaptive Edge Mopping, where one pad extends to the edge to mop this area. The base Revo doesn't have this feature, but it's available in the more expensive models like the Pro version. Next, we'll compare the navigation. Although these robots appear to have similar navigation on paper, there are nuances to consider. The Roborock Revo and Ecovacs T30S use LiDAR, so each robot relies on a top-mounted laser sensor that rapidly scans its surroundings in a 360-degree pattern continually to track location. One advantage of a laser is its precision, and it will function even in dark conditions. Both options have a mapping run where the robot goes into exploratory mode for map creation. This feature is a must-have, especially for users who have larger homes, because it cuts map creation time significantly. However, I've gotten some comments about Ecovacs having trouble creating the map during this mapping run. I haven't had any issues myself, but it's something worth noting. Both navigate similarly, starting the run cleaning the edges before moving to the middle area in a back and forth pattern. However, Roborock offers the option for a third pass, something absent in Ecovacs, so it offers better thoroughness. Also, the Revo is the more efficient option, at least inside my small room, completing the 2-pass run in around 18 minutes, or 3 minutes faster than the Ecovacs T30S. Both have a crisscross cleaning pattern if you choose a multi-pass run. Another similarity between the Ecovacs T30S and Roborock Revo is that both have an obstacle avoidance system that helps these robots evade objects. Both were excellent at avoiding pet feces and not touching the fake ones I scattered, but I wouldn't recommend relying on these robots to avoid them, since they still get too close. However, the results are mixed with avoiding wires. There were instances where these robots avoided them, and instances where they did not. Another obstacle these robots didn't evade is this weighing scale, as these robots climbed over it. So in essence, these robots can avoid obstacles that's within the laser's line of sight like footwear, but I don't recommend leaving wires scattered since these robots get too close and these cords may tangle on the brushes. Next, we'll compare power. The Ecovacs T30S has a higher rated output of 11,000 pascals of suction, nearly twice the Revo, which has a rated output of 5,500 pascals. However, the airflow results are much closer. The T30S had better results, maxing at over 22 CFM, or nearly 5 more than the Revo's max output of 17.91 CFM. Despite having more airflow, the Ecovacs T30S got lower overall scores than the Roborock Revo in the cleaning tests. It got an average of 88.65% from the tests, which is nearly 5 percentage points lower than the Revo. Looking at the results, the Revo was better in nearly every experiment, getting higher averages on both surface and deep cleaning results, despite the T30S having more airflow. These results show that the Revo's all-rubber brush has better agitation than the T30S combo brush that uses softer bristles. Even with the higher airflow, the T30S wasn't as good in the deep cleaning experiment, picking up less than 68% or close to a 10% difference compared to the Revo. So the advantage goes to the Revo in cleaning surface and embedded dirt on both surfaces. However, the Debot T30S was better at cleaning at least 5-inch hair strands, picking up 100%, but struggled with longer 7-inch hair where every strand wrapped on the brush. The Revo was also bad, only picking up 24.5% of 5-inch hair, so I didn't bother with a 7-inch test. Next, we'll see how well these robots mop floors, namely red wine and grape juice stains. One plus for this design, compared to a fixed pad, is it offers better agitation and thus is more proficient at removing stains. The Ecovacs T30S and Roborock Revo were efficient at removing red wine stains, only needing one pass to remove everything. However, the Revo was better in the juice stain test, needing only one pass to remove these hard-to-clean blemishes. The Ecovacs T30S wasn't as efficient. You can see stain residue after the first pass, and it needed a second pass to clean most of the stains, but there was still residue. I needed to deploy the robot a second time to remove everything, so advantage to the Revo at mopping stains. Both were above average at keeping the pads relatively clean even after several grueling tests, so consumers won't need to remove them often to wash by hand. Both were above average at keeping the pads relatively clean even after several grueling tests, so there's no need to remove the pads often to hand wash, removing one more menial task. One advantage of the T30S, at least over the entry-level Revo, is its hot water pad washing cycle, which disinfects the pad. But technically, this isn't an advantage for Ecovacs since there are Revo models with this feature. One note on the pad lift feature: it only works for really thin rugs or carpets. Even with those, the pads still touch the surface, so I'd recommend blocking the robot from going on these surfaces. The Revo has a carpet sensor, so you can choose the option to avoid them on the app, rather than using the pad lift feature. The T30S doesn't have this feature, so you'll need to draw a no-map zone on carpeted areas. Ecovacs says that the T30S will run for up to 290 minutes, which is 110 minutes more than the Revo's claimed figure of 180 minutes. However, with the efficiency of these robots, runtime shouldn't be a significant deciding factor unless you live inside a huge mansion. Please note that these are claimed figures using the lowest power setting. Both have a recharge and resume feature, so even if the battery runs low, it goes back to the charging station, recharges, then proceeds to finish the task. Also, the mapping run comes in handy since the robot will focus on map creation without the motor running to conserve the battery during this cycle. Next, we'll compare the noise levels, where I use a sound meter to check loudness in every power setting. The Roborock Revo is the less noisy option, only maxing at 62.8 decibels in the highest power setting, while the Ecovacs T30S is close to 5 decibels louder at 67.1 decibels in the highest setting. Next, we'll compare the similarities and differences of the Roborock and Ecovacs apps, starting with the live map feature, which is available in both. This feature shows the robot's location in real time, helping consumers keep track of it during the vacuuming or mopping cycle. And these lines shows the areas the robot has cleaned. Both have a 3D map feature that shows the map from a 3-dimensional perspective. I like the Roborock version better since the map presentation is more realistic than Ecovacs' version, which looks like a cube. Another similarity is the multi-pass run, but Roborock has the advantage since it can do a 3-pass run, while Ecovacs can only do a 2-pass run. Both have containment, invisible wall, and no-go zones. The invisible wall feature blocks a robot from going past a designated line or wall drawn on the map, while the no-go zone feature blocks a robot from going into a rectangular or square area. Both can save multiple floor areas, 3 for Ecovacs and 4 for Roborock. These apps permit users to adjust power and water level settings for the vacuuming and mopping tasks. Also, users can adjust base station settings depending on the need. Consumers can also choose specific areas on the map they want the robot to clean. These apps provide several options: selective room cleaning and zone cleaning. Selective room cleaning enables users to select a specific room to clean, while zone cleaning lets users specify an area. The latter is helpful for me during the mopping experiments since I could direct it to clean the areas with stains. After testing these robots extensively and gathering data, the Roborock Revo, I'm talking about the base and upgraded version, offers far better value than the Ecovacs T30S, even with a separate handheld vacuum. The reasons are simple. The Revo offers a more stable algorithm with better navigation. I haven't gotten any complaints about mapping run issues which I've gotten with the T30S. I also liked how the Revo makes tighter turns, helping it pick up more dirt in the cleaning experiments despite having less airflow. The clincher for me is the price, since the Revo is cheaper and has most of the same features except for the hot water pad washing cycle and handheld add-on. If you have any questions or have used any of these robots, share your experience in the comments section. I'd love to hear them. Check the links below for more information about the Roborock Revo and Ecovacs T30S. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when I publish new comparisons like this, and I'll see you in the next video.